As a fluffy guy who likes to play video games, there's nothing like knocking off a game off my backlog. And usually at the end of the year, I like to bundle all my opinions up into one video and talk about them on this channel. But for 2026, I decided maybe I'm just going to do that quarterly. I don't know, we'll see how this works out. So today I'm just going to talk about all the video games that I've played in this first quarter of 2026, and I'm going to give them a smash or pass rating because I don't know, I like smashing. So with that, let's just get right into the first game. And again, if you like this video, then like, subscribe, or even hype it if you're that crazy for this octopus thing. Playing Palworld makes me feel like a naughty boy, especially as a huge Pokemon fan. I don't usually play Pokemon knockoffs, but to my surprise, when I finally dove into this game, I realized that it's not really a Pokemon knockoff as much as I had originally thought. It's more of a survival game knockoff. But it is a pretty competent one at that. Initially, I was very surprised with just how quickly things were moving and constantly progressing, and I was learning new things, encountering new pals, and just figuring out what they could do and how I could viciously exploit them for my own capital gain. Figuring out what the different pals can do and how you could use them to develop your own base is honestly some of the best and most fun thing about this game. This game also has a great balance of exploration where it gives you that sense of I need to go explore things, but I'm also just a little bit scared of going too far away from my base, as I might encounter something that's just gonna one-shot me. And for the very first couple hours of playing Palworld, I was absolutely cruising through this game, playing it every single night, building up my industry and finding different pals. But after a while, I was also just starting to get a little bit bored, and I think the reason were my pals weren't getting unique after a while. I also felt like it took a while for me to even get my very first gun, which is kind of, I feel like the fun of this game is when you get your first gun or something. And around that point, that's when the game did start to feel a little bit like a slog and felt more like I was playing a mobile game with how you kind of need to level up yourself in order to get different items. It almost felt like there was kind of one of those pay for stamina kind of things you'd see in a mobile game. And the other thing that kind of made this kind of a little bit less fun was when I started getting through my first dungeons, they were definitely pretty cool, but later on in my kind of shorter time with this game, they definitely felt a little bit less unique and kind of just weren't enough to give me some good rewards to keep doing them over and over again. Ultimately, though, I did still have a lot of fun with Palworld. I mean, it was definitely a good game to give me a laugh at several points, but it's also not a game that I would probably pass right now for myself, or at least it's not a game that I'm going to play a bunch more of, but it is definitely something, if you're looking at this and you haven't tried it yet, and everything I just said does still sound pretty fun to you, then I definitely think it's an absolute smash for you. Just get in there, you dirty dog. A while back, I made a video where I was talking about games that I finally decided to give a chance, and I played Alan Wake 1, and I really enjoyed this kind of Luigi's Mansions for adults kind of game. So inevitably, I thought, of course, why wouldn't I go and try playing Alan Wake 2? I must say, off the bat, this game looks absolutely amazing. What they do with balancing a lack of light or an abundance of light is frankly superb. It is a technical marvel of a game. Also, the gunplay in this game is just so much more enhanced from the last game. This game controls perfectly, almost on par with a lot of the Resident Evil games I've played and loved. And its story, which is indeed confusing at times, I think if you really spend the time to start questioning things and really getting into it, you'll get a lot out of this game's story. And it's actually not as confusing as you might think. And I do heavily respect this game and the way that it's doing things and the way it's decided to kind of tell a story. I also especially love all the set pieces, the big moments in this game. They're just so fun. But there is a hairy butt in the beginning of this game, but also there's a hairy butt in my kind of own perspective of how I see this game. And one of those things is really just that lately I've been trying to make sure that when I play video games, I'm actually having fun and actually enjoying myself. I want to play games that I'm actually like itching to play, and not games that I'm kind of forcing myself to play a little bit through. And unfortunately, there is a couple things in Alan Wake 2 that kind of made me feel like I was like, oh, I just had to get through this. And one of those things was definitely the Mind Palace. Now, the Mind Palace in theory that this game has is a very cool idea. And this is kind of a hot take. And I think it's a really cool concept. But its execution on PlayStation 5, which is where I play that, kind of just pisses me off to no end. For the simple fact that the number of times I moved a picture or moved it into somewhere where I knew it was supposed to go in and it just didn't, and then it went floating back down to the bottom of the screen. I know this this is a little bit of a nitpick, but just the number of times I was playing this game of failing to drag and drop these little pictures into the spot just because they weren't in the right section just became really, really annoying. And it was actually hurting my hands while doing it because it felt like I was spending so much time just messing around in the Mind Palace. Now again, this is a nitpick, but it is pretty much what has caused me to not finish Alan Wake 2, and I have dropped this game. Now I would definitely give it a smash if you can get over that. It might be better with a mouse and keyboard. And with that being said, I did kind of want to add another little spice to this video. If there's a game you think that I should go back and try again because you think my opinion is stupid on it, leave a comment down below, and whatever game gets the most likes, I'll give it another try. And if I do another one of these videos, I'll talk about it again. But yeah, Alan Wake is, it's a smash for the Alan Wake fans, but they probably already played it. But ultimately is kind of a pass for me right now, just because I don't think I can stomach doing any more of that stupid little Mind Palace thing, even though I do want to know what happened in the rest of the game. Have you ever played a Shinobi game? Well, I haven't until pretty recently. I played my very first Shinobi game, Shinobi Art of Vengeance, a game that came out last year. And honestly, I was pretty unsure if I even liked this or not, but I did know one thing about this game is that it looked absolutely beautiful, and simply on that alone, I had to give it a try. The animations for all the attacks and just running around is just so smooth, and a lot of the different combos that you can do in this game are also pretty fun to play. One of my favorite is just the mid-air dodge spin attack. And at the very beginning of the game, you might think that it's a little bit simple, but towards the end, it definitely gets a lot more complex, with tons of different ways to kind of mix up your little Shinobi Joe guy. There's also just a decent, fun variety of different enemies that you can fight in each level, as this is a very level-based video game. Now, that being said, some of them can be a little hit or miss. Some of the chase levels are these cool set pieces that kind of just bring everything to be a little bit larger than life in the rest of the game. And then later on, there's some levels that are a little bit more like a Metroidvania, and you're kind of just backtracking a lot throughout the level, just trying to find new things. But there can be some stinkers. There's this fish market that's honestly the standout stinker in my mind, where there's a couple moments, especially one in particular, where it requires you just kind of doing a leap of faith off the screen to find the next platform. And honestly, I was very confused for a bit on where I was supposed to go until I just decided to jump out into the abyss. Also, while there is some pretty good variety with the basic level enemies, some of them just kind of stand around a bit and just kind of wait for you to attack. But sometimes a new enemy type can catch you off your guard. And there is also a story to this game, but it kind of barely exist as a vehicle to help motivate you kind of move through the different levels. I honestly didn't really give a shit about it, but maybe for more Shinobi fans, they might find more value out of this. Because really, overall, it's not a perfect game, but I definitely say it's a smash for me, but I'm also not really coming back for seconds in any way. One day I just also felt really bored, and I felt, you know what, maybe I should just play Strider on the NES, because why not? I just play Shinobi Art of Vengeance, why not play Strider? It's also because I've heard that anyone can Strider, and yeah, no, Strider is a piece of shit game. Why does this game hate me playing it? Why does just jumping fuck everything up? Why doesn't jumping on slopes work? Sometimes you jump high and sometimes you jump low. Why are enemies invulnerable sometimes when you attack them from below? Why do enemies spawn on top of you all the time? And yeah, why does this game exist? I don't know. Okay, I will admit that I did have a lot of fun just wondering how this would even turn out playing it, but that doesn't mean it's a must play. But I almost just want to give it a regretful smash, just because I think almost everyone needs to play a little bit of Strider, but if you want a good quality game, then this is absolutely a pass. The next game I played that also have not finished is Digimon Story Time Stranger. Not Digimon Story Time Stranger, I kept getting that all mixed up and getting kind of confused. But I've never played a Digimon game, but I've always been a Pokemon fan, and that was actually probably my first mistake when I was getting into this, is that Digimon Story Time Stranger is definitely a bit more of kind of like a Persona game rather than a Pokemon game, which is not to say it's bad, it's just something that you might want to consider. But off the bat, one of the things I really liked about this is just how goofy and weird a lot of the Digimon are. They're just so bizarre, and they exude this chaotic energy. The early game is also quite difficult and surprisingly tough. Now in this game, you have to level up your Digimon, make sure they have good coverage with the different moves, and also learn the buffs and weaknesses system that this game has. And there's some bosses like Volcanosman or something that definitely reward you for understanding the systems that the boss wants you to engage with, rather than just using a straight brute force. And how the Digimon Digivolve is definitely a lot more like a Persona game rather than Pokemon, as they can kind of basically Digivolve into anything that you want them to. But then on the side of the story of this game is a little bit, I don't know, I guess it's still so chaotic, just like the Digimon themselves are. And maybe that's just because I have never played another Digimon game. And there's some tropes of the games that I just don't understand. The silent protagonist is also pretty odd in this game, especially because the Digimon talk. So it's weird that the Digimon talk and then your guy is just like, But I will definitely be playing more Digimon. I definitely want to finish it and even maybe make a video in the future. So this game is definitely going to be a smash for me. And I think if you really like Persona, you'll definitely find Digimon Story Time Stranger very interesting. But I would say the best game that I've played in Q1 2026 is definitely Shadow of the Colossus PS4 version. Me playing it all started when I just wanted to see my wife play through the very first Colossi, and that just kind of spiraled into me actually finishing the game for the very first time. I've played Shadow of the Colossus before, but I've never actually gone all the way to the 16th Colossus. But I think the thing that stuck with me most is, of course, how beautiful the game is and how beautiful all the Colossi are and how great the animations in this game, especially considering it was a PS2 game, and it also just feels so faithful to the original PS2 game, which I have played a little bit as well. There just seems to be so much respect here, and it's sad that Blue Point obviously never got that respect turned back on themselves when they were pretty recently shut down. But I also just love how this game has really stuck with me after playing through the ending for the very first time. I just have not stopped thinking about the ending of Shadow Colossus and what it probably means and how it might reflect in my own life as well. I can also see where so many other people who've made video games that I've loved, like the Dark Souls series and maybe even Nier, have probably taken a little bit of something from Shadow of the Colossus. When it boils down to it, Shadow of the Colossus itself even feels like a game that took that moment of just going through Hyrule Field and Ocarina of Time. It's almost like they turned the dungeons from A Legend of Zelda into the Colossi, which kind of makes it even more interesting. I also just really like how easy it was for my wife to get into this game. It's such a simple game in its own nature, and really it's the technicality of just learning what you can kind of get away with when you're climbing up the Colossi, and just learning how to, say, control aggro, or even control wander as you're climbing up the different colossi, or trying to find the different points that you need to stab your sword into them. Also, the colossi, all of them feel very unique. Sure, there's some ones that are a little bit similar, but I never was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this again. No, they all felt very fresh. I was always excited to learn the new trick or just how I was supposed to engage with the next colossi. And the music also just does such a stupendous job of just making certain moments feel just like the most epic thing of all time, but that always ending in this kind of melancholic sadness after you've defeated one. It's just so beautiful, but also that's really what makes you keep thinking about the game after you've played through a session. And if it wasn't apparent, this game is absolutely a smash must play. I don't even want to talk too much more about it because the ending is definitely something you just have to experience for yourself, and I hope you have not been spoiled by it in any way. And if you were ever wondering if Shadow of the Colossus holds up, yeah, it definitely holds up. If my wife, who usually would not be into this kind of game at all, had enjoyment out of this, then you definitely would if you like to play video games. I also did play a shit ton of Stardew Valley, about 70 hours since I last talked about it in my indie game video. Go see that if you haven't watched that video yet, but I've been playing co-op, but this is not the very first time I played it, so I'm just kind of mentioning it here, but it is indeed though a massive pass on this list. Also been playing Eugenics, which is a pretty new game by the Binding of Isaac creator. Again, I played a tiny bit of this one, and it's kind of a newer game. I didn't really want to mention it maybe too much because I have kind of dropped it, but not because I think it's bad, but because I'm kind of waiting for what I think is the console port, because I don't like playing it with mouse and keyboard really, and it seems that it's very required to. I tried playing on Steam Deck and it was just awful experience in my personal opinion, forcing you to use the trackpad all the time, and yeah, I'm gonna wait on that one. I have also been playing a fuck ton of Pokopia, but again, new. I've played about 20 to 25 hours in that game. Probably my favorite game so far that's released this year. I'm really enjoying it, but I also kind of just wanted to put it off a little bit on this video because I think I kind of want to make a full video on Pokopia. So if you'd like to see that, then just let me know and I'll add it to my list. But that's kind of the end of the video. That's most of the games that I've played this year so far. Again, if there's a game that you think I didn't give a fair chance or you want to see a full video on, let me know down below and maybe I'll do that. And if you like this one, like it, subscribe, or maybe hype it if you're still able to do that. And it lets me know that I should make more of these videos. Maybe I'll make a Q2 2026 kind of video backlog update in the future.